I think, Charles is walking into a trap if he feels that he can take them into the royal fold and even give them royal duties, because I think there's another embarrassment coming for the York family.
I've, do can you give me any other hints, or is that just what we call a deep tease in the business? Hi, all. Welcome to Royally Unfiltered, the show that takes you behind palace gates like never before. This is where tradition meets truth and nothing is off limits. This week, helping me tackle all the biggest headlines is royal historian and broadcaster Rafe Heydel-Mankoo and the author of the blockbuster bestseller entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York, among many others. Andrew Lownie, thank you both for being here today. You both look so handsome. I mean, I feel like I'm
Thank you.
showing up for Sunday church.
Well, we got dressed up for you. You're worth it.
Thank you so much. Let's talk about Prince George. I don't talk about the children very often on my channel because I want them to have that freedom. I want them to have as much of a childhood as they can without the awkward attention that they're inevitably going to attract, especially Prince George, I imagine, if it's anything like Prince William. According to a scoop from Katie Nicholl, he may not be following his father's path to Eton after all. Um, Andrew Lownie, when you see a headline like that from Vanity Fair, does that surprise you that Eton wouldn't be the automatic assumption or the automatic choice for a future king?
No, I think that has a lot of validity. I know that they feel very strongly that the security at Marlborough, which is I think the likely place he'll go, is much easier than at Eton, where they mix between town and gown. So this all makes sense. She wants to keep the family together. So I think there's a very good chance he will go to Marlborough and he won't go into Eton.
Pros and cons of Eton, or do you agree that Eton's not maybe the best place for Prince George?
Yes, no, I agree with Andrew on many of those points. And of course, you have a bit of a tug of war here too, right? Because Prince William went to Eton, was the first senior royal to go to Eton. The Kents and the Gloucesters had been to Eton, but of course, the Princess of Wales went to Marlborough. Eton's got some very good things going for it. Obviously, there's the proximity to the Windsor estate. Prince William and Prince Harry used to go and see their grandmother at Windsor very often. Adelaide Cottage isn't that far away. But there's also the understanding, of course, that although Eton's very good at creating leaders, more than 20 British prime ministers have been to Eton and many other foreign leaders, you do have that pressure if you aren't that academically inclined. But also importantly, it's not co-ed. It's an all-boys school, at least, at least until you get to the sixth form, whereas Marlborough is co-ed. The children are currently at a co-ed school at Lambrook, and the idea is it would be very nice if they could all carry on that education together at Marlborough. And also, of course, if the kids are all in one location, it means it's much easier from a security perspective to actually look after them all in one place, would lower costs as well. And there is the idea, I think, that they want to, if they do want to rebrand the monarchy in some way and show it as being slightly more progressive, one of the ways you would do that would be to go away from something which is so obviously elitist as Eton. Not that Marlborough is any less elitist, but at least in the public perception, it's much more stuffy, much more traditional, whereas Marlborough is, I think, known as being slightly more progressive. Although, of course, all public schools in England now have gone completely progressive and woke, in my opinion. But at least, anyway, Marlborough, I think, fits in much better with the brand image that they're trying to portray.
And Andrew, can you give me some insight into who would have the decision making power here? I mean, Harry and Meghan have drilled it in our heads here in the States that there are these men in gray suits that make decisions that affect their lives forever. Is there a team that's having to determine next steps for Prince George because he has such a high role awaiting him? Or are we talking about William and Catherine around a kitchen table? And this is a family decision only.
I mean, certainly when Charles was picked to go to Trinity College, Cambridge, I mean, there were a whole series of people involved in that decision, including Lord Mountbatten. But that was partly because the Queen and Prince Philip were not perhaps the most hands-on parents. William and Catherine are. I think this will be a decision like any other parent, and they will make it on behalf of their child. I mean, they may talk to King Charles and others, but I suspect that it's entirely an internal decision. But I agree with everything that Rafe said. I think actually the issues of security and brand image, I think, would be two determining factors.
And Rafe,
And
do
it should
you?
be said that there is obviously like Ravek that deals with police protection for Prince Harry potentially. There's also a separate royal group that looks after these sorts of issues. But
Oh.
actually, Eton and Marlborough both are very experienced schools for dealing with dignitaries and the children of VIPs. But there's less of the gown and town aspect with Marlborough. It's much more enclosed and insular.
Rafe, do you see as Prince George becomes a teenager the type of attention that Prince William had? I mean, over here in the States, he was on the cover of teen magazines. You could buy posters with his face on them. Are we moving into a different era? Do we have more respect for their privacy? Are you just social media has changed the landscape as well? Do you think that he will have as much attention as Prince William did, or or do you think we'll be respectful of this young family?
No matter how much the world changes, teenage girls will always be teenage girls. And they'll all be looking for their pin-up, and there's no greater pin-up than a handsome young prince after all, isn't it? Unless you're Meghan, of course, where you don't see any of that sort of stuff as we understand. So yes, no, of course. I was living in Canada at the time when William made that famous trip to Whistler, British Columbia with his father, and that's when Will's mania broke into the whole world, when you had those scenes reminiscent of the Beatles screaming for William, and I think that's going to be precisely what happens to Prince George. And actually, it's not a bad thing at all. You know, if you want to really cement the bonds around the Commonwealth realms in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and elsewhere, it does help to have a young heartthrob there.
That's hilarious. I mean, it
Yep.
does engage an entirely different demographic and generation, so perhaps that would be beneficial towards them. All right, Andrew, Prince Harry's Invictus Games is expanding its mission with the launch of a new award show in London this September. The Invictus Spirit Gala Dinner and Awards aims to spotlight individuals and organizations whose resilience and service exemplify the spirit at the core of the Invictus community. Is this the beginning of a rival court? Why are you doing this now? I feel like Harry is just a disruptor.
Yes, I think there's an element of that. We saw that with the Duke of Windsor trying to sort of upstage his younger brother in the 1930s and 40s. Yes, I mean the fact if he's allowed to come back to Britain, he feels he's safe here. I do think there will be some sort of alternative court set up. It's his escape plan to come back to Britain, and whether Meghan will be part of that is another question. But absolutely, and I think that's what's concerning William and Catherine. I mean, they clearly brought in reputation management people because they anticipate problems down the line.
Andrew, it's unfortunate because Invictus is really such a great cause. And I don't ever want to be critical of it, but when it appears to be a tool that someone is using to promote themselves or to benefit their own public relations, pivot from a perpetual crisis, the perpetual crisis, which I feel like the Sussexes are in, it's hard to stay reminded that it is such a good cause because you're thinking, well, here comes Meghan Markle again. What is she going to wear? What drama is she going to bring? Do you think that the people that really are entrenched in the leadership in Invictus kind of dread the
Well, I
circus
think
that these two bring?
I'm sure they're aware of it, and I mean, clearly they should be aware of it. I mean, it's always the problem. I mean, it's what Sarah Ferguson did. She kind of laundered her reputation through charities. And it's difficult to get the balance. But I think we just need to keep focused on the charity. And if he exploits it, I'm sure that the press and social media will pick up on that. But yeah, I think certainly if I was an organizer of these charities, and we've seen some of his charities kind of self-implode because of problems that he was using them to promote a particular image and internal problems. So it's something we need to think about.
Senabale, Rafe, he could have launched this gala anywhere in the world. Why London? Do you really get the sense that he's homesick or he feels like he needs to reestablish himself there? And do you feel at all like this is forcing the half in, half out that Queen Elizabeth said absolutely no to?
Yes, it's hard to draw any other conclusion. I mean, look, officially and on the face of it, yes, it's absolutely true. Look, The Invictus Games were launched in London in 2014, and this only makes sense, of course, as they see it, to launch these new awards here too, especially because this is all about building momentum for 2027 when you do have, in the UK, you will have the Invictus Games in Birmingham. And so this, you could argue that that's why this is being done. But of course, unofficially, it's pretty obvious this is all part of a desire and an effort to re-establish a UK presence again. Remember, of course, since Harry left the royal family, he lost his charitable portfolio in the UK. So he doesn't have any charitable enterprise here of any note to give him some credibility in this country. And so he can now use these awards, use the Invictus to fulfill all of that and try to, and I suppose, make people think about him in connection with veterans, in connection with charity, rather than always around the family dramas. So I think this is very much about trying to shift public perception back towards his charitable work. And of course, we know he's got these efforts he wants to make to try to, in some way, entice his father into taking part in some way. Ideally, he wants him to open the game. So this is also part of that olive branch, I suppose, by showing how serious he is about all of this. Although, of course, we know the king is trying to keep his son at an olive branch orange branch distance because quite clearly, especially with legal cases ongoing, it's not necessarily good for the king to be seen in his presence.
I have to tell you about a total game changer, Peak's Liver Detox Protocol. You may not know it, but your liver handles a lot: energy, hormones, digestion, and even your mood. But with all the stress and toxins from everyday life, it needs some love. Forget harsh cleanses. Peak delivers gentle daily support inspired by traditional Chinese medicine. Their routine uses two simple blends. The first is a warming turmeric mix with cinnamon and black pepper designed to help the body absorb it better and support the liver while calming inflammation. The second is a ginger and cinnamon blend that helps with blood flow, digestion, bloating, and immune support. The magic is how they work together to activate and flush for better digestion, stable energy, less brain fog, and that light, clear feeling. My energy is consistent now, skin is clearer, and less bloating. That's Peak, where spirit meets science. Redefine your standard of health. Secure 20% off your order and begin your intentional wellness journey today at peaklife.com/Kinsey. That's PIQUE life.com/Kinsey. If you were a betting man, Rafe, what is your prediction? Do you believe that we will see King Charles standing there with him, or do you suspect that he would try to meet him halfway by giving him a video that could be played at the ceremony or something? I just think that he risks giving Harry legitimacy by being seen with him, and knowing how unpredictable the Sussexes are is that dangerous?
Yeah, it's firstly, it's far too early to think about anything quite so public. I mean, we haven't even had any real private meetings between them of any great length of time anyway. Certainly, I would completely discount any idea that the king would be opening these games. If there is some attempt at healing towards towards 2027, well, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But I think at best you might hope from a statement. I wouldn't even go so far as to say a video will be recorded for the occasion. I think at the very most, I could say perhaps a message of greetings.
A nice little tweet, a tweet. Andrew, were you surprised that King Charles didn't see Prince Harry while Harry was there going after the Daily Mail? The king surely is like, I just don't want to look like I'm trying to influence another court case. I don't want to look like I'm associated in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, I mean, I think he wants to distance himself from any of these things. I mean, no member of the royal family wants to fall out with the press. In fact, I mean, a former journalist at the Daily Mail is his press secretary now.
Oh yeah,
So
that's
it
right.
doesn't play very well. So I would have thought I don't know what Rafe feels, but he wants to keep out of this, and it's particularly if Harry loses, which is there's a good chance he does.
Rafe, just your observation as you've been kind of looking at some of the headlines related to that case. I have yet to see any tangible evidence that Harry has specifically presented in his saga or in his portion of the Daily Mail trial. I've not seen a bug or a recording that he can attribute to a specific person. Do you agree with Andrew that this might not be a home run for Harry, this particular case?
Yeah, I think very much so. Well, the jury's out almost quite literally. And Andrew's also correct. The king does not want to be involved in this. It's legal jeopardy. It's a very, very long established principle that any senior member of the royal family, but particularly the sovereign, must not be associated in any way with active litigation. And also, of course, the king simply doesn't, as we've heard from sources, he's simply too exhausted to have time or energy to deal with the ongoing sagas surrounding Prince Harry.
He is exhausting, but he's not too tired to get paid to show up at another event because Prince Harry is scheduled to speak at IAPP Global Summit in Washington, D.C. This is taking place March 30th through April 2nd. The conference is traditionally focused on privacy law, AI governance, and cybersecurity, drawing lawyers, policymakers, and tech experts who work directly in those fields. With that being said, what the hell is Prince Harry doing there? According to the organizers, he will address whether the digital world is breaking society or bringing it together, and what role individuals can play in reshaping the future. While the conference itself is grounded in governance and law, Harry's role appears designed to expand the conversation in a more abstract, value-based direction. Whether that perspective meaningfully advances discussions on privacy and AI oversight or simply serves as a headline-grabbing keynote is open to interpretation, and that's why we're here. Andrew, could this opportunity have come via Princess Beatrice? Because she is speaking at the AIPP's European conference in February. Apparently, they will platform anyone with the last name Mountbatten-Windsor.
Well, exactly. I mean, almost more surprising is her own appearance, but I think that's absolutely right. I think clearly there's a network here. I mean, they clearly see advantages of having a prince and princess talking, but I wouldn't have thought, particularly after this court case, Harry will be in a strong position to talk, depending on how it goes. And certainly, what Beatrice has to say about these matters is anyone's idea. So it does seem very strange. But I mean, these are the new younger royals who are using their royal status to put themselves in the public arena, and one kind of wonders why. Whose interests is she serving here?
Andrew, just throwing it back to your book entitled Harry at a Toronto Hilton. Now we're seeing him show up here. Is the Rent a Prince pursuit giving Prince Andrew vibes at all to you, or former Prince Andrew vibes, I should say?
Well, I think there must be a feeling with the Sussexes that the Yorks have got away with being sort of half in, half out for years. Fergie's been able to sell jam for a long time. And so Meghan must feel a bit sort of persecuted here. But absolutely, I mean, it is rent a prince. And, this is what the royal family need to, it's difficult. He's no longer a member of the royal family, but they need to somehow find some way of disciplining the members of the royal, the wider members of the royal family to behave well. If there is no problem, they should be happy to sign, for example, a royal register. Because I am concerned that Princess Beatrice and Eugenie, who are not working royals, are using their royal status to make money for themselves.
I mean, I have a lot of people that watch this show that are concerned about that as well, and do think that they take advantage of King Charles's generosity. And that's coming from an American audience. You're saying that you feel like people in the UK are sensing that as well?
Yes, I mean, I see it in comments. It's certainly material I found for the updated entitled. I'll be talking about some of their activities, particularly in the Middle East, the way that they're being supported by particular businessmen, and the activities they're getting up to. So absolutely. And I think, Charles is walking into a trap if he feels that he can take them into the royal fold and even give them royal duties, because I think there's another embarrassment coming for the York family.
Can you give me any other hints, or is that just what we call a deep tease in the business?
I could tell you more in May.
Okay,
But,
all right.
if you have me back in May. But yes, I think there's a lot more still to come out about the daughters, and I don't think it's going to help the reputation of the monarchy.
Well, we have a date in May. Rafe, this was brought to my attention, this conference, by a highly qualified expert in this field that said that they were rejected a speaking opportunity for someone like Harry. What qualifications does Harry have to be there? And do you ever think to yourself, like, do you have any shame? Like, surely he knows he's taking someone else's spot.
So yeah, I think that this is a mutually beneficial arrangement, right? So on the part of this organization, by getting someone like Prince Harry, they suddenly got us talking about a conference we never would have spoken about normally, and everyone's giving it airtime. No, there's no such thing as bad publicity. And on the part of Prince Harry, well, now he's being taken seriously because he's standing shoulder to shoulder with intelligent people who have something to say. So it suits all of their purposes. But Prince Harry would say, look, with the Archwell Foundation, he's shifted his focus onto the digital futures and online safety, so he can bring that in. He's got this responsible tech youth fund that he's set up as well to hold tech companies to account. And he's also recently joined some sort of AI policy engagement last year, calling for a ban on super intelligent AI systems that can invade your privacy. So you can make a link there, but clearly no one's going to be coming away with any great insights, or any great sort of revelations about the reality of cybersecurity, having listened to Prince Harry. But it's par for the course, and Andrew's quite right. But when he refers to the way that they've been capitalizing on their royal status, what really annoys me, of course, is that they are setting up a rival royal court. Well, Meghan has set up a rival royal court in California, but of course they're still using their titles and their branding in subtle ways on their website. And so even though they've said that they wouldn't be using officially the HRH and so forth, you still are seeing very regal connotations and tones on their branding, which of course is why they're able to sell their products. And so they are capitalizing on all of that. One other point I want to make about the York daughters: the British public aren't yet aware of the financial arrangements or the financial involvements of the two daughters, really. So as we speak today, in the beginning of 2026, before Andrew's Andrew's revelations come out in his next release, there's a lot of sympathy for the two daughters about their predicament at the moment. So I think there's still quite a lot of goodwill towards them amongst the British public.
But to Andrew's point, maybe temporarily. Hey friends, want to hear a secret? Creatone by Brickhouse Nutrition was developed by doctors specifically for women. It powers your body at the cellular level, supporting steady energy, sharp focus, and better overall output without the crash or burnout. Creatine is known for weightlifting performance, but its benefits go far beyond the gym. Research suggests it may support brain function, reduce fatigue, improve mood, and help preserve muscle and bone as we age, even if you rarely lift a barbell. Creatone stacks seamlessly with most supplements, especially protein and magnesium, and was designed to complement, not compete, with your current routine. With daily use, energy feels more consistent, your body feels stronger and more balanced, and your shape looks visibly toned. Confidence grows right alongside your results. Try it and feel supported, energized, and strong from within. Let me get you started with 20% off your first order. Visit tonetoday.com, promo code Kinsey. That's promo code Kinsey at tonetoday.com. I guess, Rafe, you're talking about, people waking up. You're talking about people recognizing the truth, having empathy, perhaps. I do think that our patience in 2026 it's running thin. Fame is not a credential. Influence is not the same thing as expertise. Just because someone is famous or has a massive following or is a household name doesn't mean they're qualified to weigh in on complex, polarizing, technical issues. Somebody can fart on the internet and have 1 million followers. So I guess my frustration is, when will organizations that truly want to be respected or be taken seriously realize that Harry and Meghan are not qualified to speak on some of these things? They're talking about online bullying. Meghan has online bullies on her show. They talk about mental health while terrorizing Catherine in the pages of Spare with private text messages. I guess my frustration is, like, I get that there is a PR opportunity here for this organization, but have some respect for our intelligence.
Yeah, no, everything you say is absolutely right. But unfortunately, we're living in the world of realpolitik, and that's if you want to promote yourself, you have to find influencers. If that influencer is a pop star, if it's Nicki Minaj promoting Donald Trump, or if it's Prince Harry, why do people want to know what people of questionable intelligence think about any of these issues? Whether you're a guitar player or an ex-royal, I don't think you have that much to add to the general understanding of complex topics. But obviously, they are there to serve a purpose, to spread the message. And unfortunately, that's the reality increasingly now through social media more than ever. But of course, it's always been the case.
Andrew, as books like yours hold these people accountable, do you think we will see a shift in the way that some of these organizations just throw money at the royals?
Yes, I think so. I think I see a change of tone. I mean, I think Rafe's right. I mean, social media drives this, and it can drive it. It can be a change of tone. You see a lot of critical comments about these influencers and what authority they speak about on. So yeah, I think we might see a change. I mean, and depending on whether Harry and Meghan listen to their advisors, they may see that it's not necessarily in their own interest to get involved with some of these issues, which are kind of above their pay grade. Um, but who knows? I mean, they are kind of megalomaniac narcissists, so they're desperate to get attention.
Oh, you did tell the Mirror, as well as us just now, and I appreciate it, that there the royal family is worried that there could be some further damage on the horizon when it comes to the York family and the Jeffrey Epstein saga, and that everyone is really just bracing themselves for that scandal. Have they reached the full extent of their ability to punish Prince Andrew and the York family, or distance themselves? Or do you see that there are further steps that can be taken? Because this all, at the end of the day, is a PR crisis for the royal family. They can't seem like they're endorsing him or like they have anything to do with him. They have to look like they've cut him off at the knees.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have done what they can to distance themselves. I mean, it's difficult to know what else they could be seen to be doing. I mean, he's out of his royal lodge, which I didn't think he would be as quickly as he is. He's clearly lost his titles, so in fact, the truth is he can still use them if he wants. It needs an act of parliament. I think the worry is if this is all window dressing and actually nothing much has changed. I mean, he's got his servants, the house isn't too bad. He's going to be able to roam around the world, go and live in Middle East for part of the time and make money on the side. But it's very difficult to know what they can do. Um, I, I think if somehow he evades justice and they have helped him evade justice, that won't play very well. But I think at the moment it's a bit of a waiting game to see what comes out. It's difficult to get ahead of the story if they don't know what the story is.
That's true. And it's our understanding that he lied to them as well as lying to the BBC and everyone else, that he was telling them this is not true. And they took him at his word. Andrew, there are conflicting stories about whether or not Beatrice and Eugenie are still communicating with their father. Do you have any insight there?
Well, according to the sources I've got, yes, that story of Eugenie breaking contact with him was true. I mean, my own feeling is there's no reason why they couldn't be seen to quietly be seeing their parents behind the scenes and yet sort of keeping in with the royals publicly at the same time. And I suspect that's what's happening. I mean, that's why the Beatrice uh, sort of photo in the sun is so extraordinary because in some ways all they need to do is keep the subject quiet and just hope it goes away. So the princesses, I think the deal's been done. The princesses will keep their status, keep them in the royal family, keep their titles, still be able to exploit them for their own interests. And in return, Andrew and Sarah Ferguson have fallen on their swords and passed on the baton. I mean, the interesting story is what Sarah Ferguson does next.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Andrew, in some ways, has been taken care of. Is she playing a game of negotiating a stipend from the royal family by these threats to give interviews and write books? Or does she mean to go down that route? I mean, one of the interesting things I did talk to a member of the staff the other day, and Andrew still hasn't come to terms with the fact that he is pretty disgraced, that he is not a victim here, he still seems to lack any sort of awareness of the problem, and that may be something that's conditioning the way the children are now responding to him.
Interesting. Rafe, please respond to that. I'd love to know your thoughts.
No, I agree entirely. And I think Eugenie in particular is in an invidious position because remember, she's quite an ardent campaigner against modern slavery and sex trafficking because she has this charity, the Anti-Slavery Collective. And so it's very much her own integrity is at stake. And I think that obviously, therefore, as far as I understand, it's the refusal of her father to apologize to any of the victims here, which was a key aspect of this. Of course, along as with the desire to preserve, her family, her husband, and her children from the guilt of all of this, and then the drip drip. I think because of her activism here, she has been put in this position.
Rafe, what is your feeling when you talk to people in the UK? Do they think that the royal family has done enough to stop the bleeding, or is their anger they want enough of them to take a step further that we don't know exists?
No, I think at this stage, given what has come out so far, who knows what's going to happen in the future? The British public think that the king has done precisely what they need to do. The royal family have always been very good at eventually reacting and cutting off anyone who is a threat to the greater cause, which is the future of the monarchy. And anything further at this stage would be seen as being vindictive. They can see the state of the new property under renovation. They know that he's been stripped of all his titles. I mean, the reality is he still is a duke. He's not a Royal Highness, but he is His Grace the Duke of York in law. But this beyond the king. The king could, the Prime Minister has said, number 10 has said, this is a matter for the king. So if the king did have a meeting with the Prime Minister, there could, I suppose, be a bill put through Parliament to strip him of his dukedom. That wouldn't actually take as long as it need. It wouldn't be that complicated to put that through Parliament, given the feeling in the House. But I think that would only ever come if something really did come down the road, which merited it. I think at this stage, everything has been done, and people understand precisely that Andrew is simply never going to be re-emerging to public life. Although it would be in all of our interest if he did go to this palace he has waiting for him in the Middle East, or indeed to Switzerland.
I think what the royal family are keen, sorry, to do is to keep the story off wider questions of royal accountability and privilege. They don't want I mean, I think they must be concerned about the Public Accounts Committee looking at Crown Estate property, because this begins to sort of pull at the wool and unfurl the whole ball of wool. But yeah, I agree with Rafe. It's difficult to know what else they can do.
Andrew, judging by how quick and vicious is an exaggeration, but judging how quick and vicious the removal of Andrew's lifestyle and titles were. I mean, it surprised all of us. We were all on TV saying, well, technically, he would have to go through this protocol and process. And is it worth it? Are you surprised at how Harry and Meghan continue to do whatever the hell they want because they could be next on the chopping block when it comes to titles and access?
Well, I think there's sort of two ways of looking at it. One is that this is a shot across the bows about anyone who might step out of line, showing that, the king can be ruthless. It's made him, actually very popular, and that, he is prepared to take action if required. On the other, if they're seen to be treated in the same way as Andrew, when they haven't been abusing young girls and things, then I think that that would be slightly tricky. So it can go both ways. But I think certainly the king showing that he can be ruthless has been a big vote winner. People want him to be firm, and are fed up with the way that these two couples have basically sort of run rings around him for years.
And Rafe, what's the solution? How do we move on and put the focus back onto the working royals that are doing really good work? I mean, I love what Prince William's doing with the environment. King Charles still shows up to work for every day despite his cancer. There is some really good stuff happening in the background.
Yes, well, as Winston Churchill said, KBO, keep buggering on, and just let the good work of the royal family speak for itself. Don't focus on any of this, and that's all that they've done. When you look at the royal family, the Princess Royal and others, they have just carried on, not commenting on any of this, and let time show in the end who has been um, but the most respected and the most loved of all. I mean, look, now we know full well the Yorks are going to fade into the. I'm pretty confident the Yorks are going to fade into memory over the coming years. Harry and Meghan, I think we're over the worst excesses of what we've experienced in the terrible time around the illness of the Queen and the succession of the King. So I think, as always, the monarchy manages to come through the greatest trials and tribulations. It may be a long, hard slog, but eventually there is light at the end of the tunnel. And actually, if you look at polling around the Commonwealth realms, support for the monarchy hasn't taken any great hits over any of this sort of scandals. Support people understand that Andrew and Meghan and Harry are not representative of the institution of the monarchy, and they don't reflect badly on the actual decent members of the royal family who are doing their duty, especially long after retirement years. And so I think the institution is only going to continue to get to have and retain, yes, huge amounts of public support.
Andrew, did you want to say anything before I close out?
No. I mean, Rafe and I have been agreeing all the way through, but I mean that's because we know exactly what's going on. I think that's absolutely right. I mean, I think they've shown by their dignity and by their hard work and public service that this is what the monarchy's about. And I think people respect that. And the Yorks and the Sussexes are aberrations rather than actually part of the monarchy.
Andrew Lownie, Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait to see you again, but hopefully together, because I really enjoyed this panel of everyone agreeing with each other. But if you agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next time.